Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Toilets of Titles, the show that is brought to you by Rival Fantasy. Rival Fantasy is the newest evolution in fantasy sports betting. You can go there to bet $1 bingo cards or bet head-to-head against somebody in a fantasy game, or even just head-to-head on a player. That's joinrival.com/title tribe. The first deposit of up to $200 will be matched, plus an additional $25 just for using that link. Again, right there, joinrival.com/title tribe. And you can actually click on that link that's just above George's shoulder up there by our logo. So again, joinrival.com/title tribe. Guys, we have a very special episode for you today. This is an episode that I know I personally look forward to every single year. It's one of the handful of annual episodes. Unfortunately, Coach could not join us today, but as you see, we have our ultimate substitute teacher coming in to fill in for us, George. I know this was probably probably busy for you. You do a lot of shows for us. You fill in a lot, so we greatly appreciate your time. But how's it going, buddy?
Man, it's going fantastic. I'm glad somebody besides you and I look forward to this show. Like, I feel like if Coach was looking forward to this show, he would have made arrangements to be here. But instead, he came up with some lame excuse about having to paint a room or he was doing something in the bathroom. I don't remember all the details. I'm not good with details anyway. But obviously, Coach didn't prioritize this show tonight. I'm here, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you.
To be fair, it was a big family thing, and it was kind of a last-second thing that his mother-in-law put together.
Family
Hey,
thing.
you can't say no to the in-laws, my man. All right.
I
But
live
we have
with
a
one.
lot
I
of people.
absolutely can.
There's actually a lot of people looking forward to this episode. We got them all in the chat. Guys, I see most of you guys that have been in the chat already are Patreon members. I want you to know that from this point forward, this is when your comments count. This is when your comments matter. So start commenting now. You just need to leave one comment, and you're going to be eligible for the Yeti tumbler that we're going to be raffling off at the end of the episode. And also, during that same raffle is when we're going to draw for who is going to be our next contestant to face myself and Coach and Rich and Will in our Patreon showdown, our weekly pick'em challenge, to have your shot at winning a $25 gift card if you are able to beat us. So I'm going to be jotting down those names, but I'm starting from this point forward. All right. So and I'm going to look at the timestamp on there. We went live at like 8:02, I think, 8:01. So I'm going to go from 8 o'clock on. I'm going to go from 8 o'clock on. The first one I see at 8 o'clock was Duarte. So if you commented after that, you're locked in. And if not, leave us a comment now, even if you commented before for that entry. But today's episode, the reason it's so special and the reason why we already have so many people in the chat is because we are revealing the Franken Stank seeding for the 2023 Franken Stank playoffs. That's right. And we're going to be doing that with a couple of guest hosts that we have coming on, a couple of special guests. I'll introduce them in just a moment. But for now, stay tuned and be ready for this showdown. All right, guys. So like I said, we are revealing the Frankenstank seeding. Okay, we have 32 teams that have qualified for the Frankenstank playoffs this year out of a total of 96 teams. That's 1/3 of the league. That's pretty consistent with what we normally do. So I'm going to start rattling off these names, and I'm going to start at the top and work our way down because I feel like the top guys probably already kind of know that they're in. So it's those bottom guys that are kind of waiting to see if they've hit that bubble or not. So if we're going to start with the top guy, I'm going to bring in the top guy. This is the man of the hour, people. This is our boy Sean Robinson. This is the manager of the Pennywise team. Sean, how's it going, my man?
Going great.
Not only is Sean the number one seed, he also just so happens to be a top tier Patreon supporter. Hey, looky there, Rich. Bravo. Thank you very much for your support there, Rich. But Sean is a top-tier Patreon supporter that actually did not take full advantage of our Patreon level there by having us do an on-show breakdown of one of his leagues. So you send us the league next year, Sean, and I promise we'll do a breakdown of it. Maybe it's a dynasty league and you want us to do the breakdown now. I'm cool with that. John and I can get together on lunch and knock out an episode like that for fun anytime. So consider that there, Sean. And before I reveal any other ones, or before I start asking Sean questions, I want to bring in the other guest that's going to help us with this breakdown, my man, Iceman. Not just my man, but also your man if you like to gamble. Iceman, how's it going?
How's it going, guys? Pleasure to be here as always. Pleasure to talk Frank. Excited.
Now, the reason I mentioned the gambling obviously is playing with house money. Do you want to talk to them a little bit about that before we get rolling here?
Yeah, so we have 2 shows that go out every week on a Thursday. We have the Playing with House Money flagship show, which goes out, talks about, Monday Night Football, how we did. We have the Patreon, Monday Night Football best bets. We cashed another winner last night for the boys, so that was fantastic. That goes out on a Thursday, and that is me and Prue. We talk about college football. He's done for, he dives deep into a lot of those college games. We talk about the Thursday nights and the Sunday night slates, and then we kind of diversify a little bit. We do a little bit of everything. The NBA's in full swing, so we're looking to see if we can, get coaches here to let us have an NBA show that goes out as part of under the flagship of Playing with House Money. I do the soccer stuff. The SGC, and that goes out on a Friday. But yeah, we in the Playing with House Money Discord that we have, we are betting on basically any sport that will allow us to do so. But yeah, we start with the football stuff, and like I say, that goes out Thursday afternoons every week, and we've been doing all right.
And I absolutely hate it that I live in Indiana because I can't gamble on most sites. But what I love to watch is in our Gilded chat, sometimes it'll be, just before a game, just before kickoff, and you and Prue are typing in there some bets that you should probably be laying down, or somebody will ask you and you'll say, well, if that's your options, this is what I would bet, or you'll lay down a parlay or something. And I'm watching and I'm like, there's no way that's going to hit. These guys are crazy. And then it gets to be halftime of the show and it's like, it seems so obvious now. So, it's just crazy. You guys are out there winning a lot of people money, doing the good work. Before we go any further, I want to ask you about that sweet shirt right there that you're wearing, my man. Explain a little bit of a background on how that shirt came to be.
Well, it's obviously last year was my first year in Frankenstank. Was Mumra St. Brown, and we took the title. We went all the way through, with a little bit of luck and some judgment, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, later in the episode. But yeah, it was one of those. And then this year, I kind of came on board with the Playing with House Money stuff with the T2T guys. Have been a fan for a long time with you guys, and Coach asked me to come on board and help out a little bit, commission a couple of the leagues. So I did that, and part and parcel of what I wanted to try and achieve this year, and everything was to get the kind of the interdivisional banter going, and try to get a few people, to put a target on my back, right, and say that I was going to go back to back, and I knew that was never the point of it. But yeah, so I got the t-shirt made to say the champ is here. And hey, I'm still the champ until we crown someone else. I've got got Frank here.
That's right. You got the evidence.
Tell me. Yeah. So
I tell you what, man, we tell everybody all the time, give Frank the first year, and it's going to be hell. You're not going to do good, but you're going to enjoy it. You're going to learn how to play, and then you're going to dominate the next year. And then this rookie comes in last year. This kid just out of nowhere just dominates year one. But so Sean, back to you as our number 1 seed, as Pennywise, as the ultimate monster so far this year. How many years have you been in Frank?
This is my second year.
Your second year. And how'd you do last year?
Horrible.
See, that is more along the lines of what George, how many years you been in Frank?
3.
How'd you do this
And
year?
I've done horrible all 3 years.
I don't know that you have 8 wins between your 3 years.
No, I probably don't, to be honest. I think I got 4 this year. I don't know. It's not good. It's not pretty.
And even with all that, you have 2 wins this year. You're going to have an opportunity to win a $100 gift card from Amazon, which we're going to get to in just a moment here in a little while after we do the main playoff seeding here. But yeah, Pennywise, Mr. Pennywise down there. What was there like a big main strategy that you set out to start the season that you kind of rolled with, or maybe you started and then you kind of veered away? Like, what was your main strategy this season?
I mean, some of it is just basic luck. Like my 2nd through 5th picks this year, I looked at that a little earlier, were Dameon Pierce, Nick Chubb, Joe Burrow, and Kirk Cousins. So I got lucky in the back end of the draft, and most of those players, by the time they got hurt, were no longer on my team. So the strategy was just simply to try to upgrade every single week. And by the end, I mean, obviously I lost this week, but by the end, I hadn't had a single player stolen until this week and had gotten a roster that I still believe can take the championship.
Yep. Yeah, very good. And so just to give a background in case you don't already know, the Frankenstank League is a vampire / pirate style league where if you win, you get to steal a player from your opponent. And that's what he means by they weren't on his team anymore, is because he had given them up to steal other players. And my man Joshua Bigby, who I don't know if he's in the chat yet or not, but I've been chatting with him earlier today. I remember just before the draft, he gave out a piece of advice to some of the rookies, some of the newcomers, and his advice kind of stuck with me because it's good advice, and that is, don't draft the team that you want in Frank, because you're going to end up stealing the team that you want. Draft the team that you can win with now, and then that way you can steal players later. So and then, of course, he went on to say he'd already said too much because he was giving away good stuff. So Muscle Matt. All right. You know what, Muscle Matt, I'm going to put your name down twice because you have good taste there. But
Justin can always
guy,
be bribed.
exactly.
He already with flattering comments.
He just really wants that Yeti. All right. So the way the Frankenstank works, the seeding is the first 8 spots go to the division winners. Okay. First 8 spots go to the 8 division winners, regardless of your record. If you won the division, you're going to be in a top 8 slot. And then from there, we go based on win-loss record, and points for is the tiebreaker. So, so Sean, you had that number 1 seed. The number 2 was Swamp Gator, Peter Harriet. Swamp Gators comes in at the 2 seed. Coach ended up with the 3 seed, and I have the 4 seed. And Coach's Wolfman Coverage. I am Justin's Jigsaw of Judgment. Now, the way this works, the first 2 seeds are the only seeds that actually get a bye in the first round. So even though Coach and I had really good seasons, we are at the exact same level as the guy that's in 32nd right now, because we have a total all-out brawl for beating each other up to try to get 6 spots out of the 30. And the top 6 teams, the top 6 scoring teams out of those 30 this week and this week alone will move on to face those other 2 in an 8-team tournament. So Coach at 3, I'm at 4. The Curse of Medusa is our boy Duarte, who won the Yeti cooler last a couple weeks ago. And then Stradvan Zarovich, I'll never understand how to pronounce that because I don't know what it is. Falcor, Carla, ends up in 7th. And then Wolf Predator, MT Simon, who is a Patreon also, is the number 8 seed. And guys, what I'm excited to see that there are so many Patreons in the Frankenstank. You guys are absolutely phenomenal, like killing it. And 26 Patreons that are in Frank didn't actually make the playoffs. So you 26 are all going to be in your separate tournament. Again, I'll be talking about that later on. Any big surprises in this top 8 as we started to get down towards the end of the season? Was there any kind of surprises that shook up in that top 8 that you guys noticed that you'd want to talk about? And I'll just throw that out there to anybody.
For me, it was the top 3 seeds all lost this week.
Yes.
So I lost by like half a point on Monday Night Football and figured that I had lost my bye and was going into the brawl. and you and Swamp Gator also lost. So it ended
Yep.
up where the first 3 seeds just, I mean, basically was just a bye week that all sort of sorted out down underneath it.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Mm.
So I had a wide receiver this week go down, Tank Dell. I had Ramondre Stevenson go down in the first quarter, and he was looking really good before he went down. So both of those guys went down early. Then on top of that, insult to injury, I lost. So I lost Mike Evans. So I went from a real shot at the 1 seed, since the top 2 lost, to the 4 seed and losing 3 players. So I don't like my odds.
I want to shout out that one of the leagues that I commissioned was Phantom of the Porta Potty, and they ended up with 4 teams all tied for top, with a 10-3 record. So that was that's Wolf Predator that you mentioned. There's Hulk Smash, Loch Ness Monster, and Ghoulie Pete. Those 4 teams, and it could have been any one of them going into the final week that took that top spot. And like you said, I don't think any of the others should be disappointed that they don't get top spot, because like you've mentioned, unless you're 1 or 2, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
If you qualify in that top 32, then like you said, 3 through 32 are all in the same boat for this weekend in the playoffs. So it was just very interesting to see how that shook out and who gets the top spot. But yeah, that, the fact that you guys have lost this week and lost a player going in just adds another layer of, whatever Frank does. Like, nothing is as it seems, right? Like you've and that will continue now, like for the next few weeks. Like, it's going to be crazy.
I love how we all had different strategies. So like the 3 of you 3 guys had the strategy of, I'm going to win it this year. See, I didn't want to have that stress or that pressure on the final game to win to get in. So I figured if I was just eliminated by about week 6 or week 7 from the playoffs, like that final game, I had no pressure. I had no pressure whatsoever going into that final game. I don't know what you guys were talking about. I sweated not one time. Nope, didn't happen.
So Peter Harriet is in the chat. Yeah, we mentioned you already, Swamp Gators. Congratulations on the bye. So you and Sean will both be in the second round. So the next thing I want to talk about with the playoffs is that second round. So in the second round, the way it works is Sean, being the number 1 seed, is gonna have the option to choose any one of the other 7 teams in round 2 to go up against in that second round. Now, Sean could choose to go up against the number 2 seed just so he could try to get the biggest competitor out of the way, or he could try to find the worst remaining seed and hope that it's because they're the bad team, or he can look at their matchups and hope that maybe he can play the matchups and win that way. There's a lot of strategy involved, but he's got to be careful. Sean, you have to be careful, because if you win the next round, it goes in reverse order. The lowest seed gets to choose their opponent, and you're going to be stuck with who's left. So have you thought any about that yet, or are you just still kind of taking this one step at a time?
So I'm probably taking it one step at a time. I mean, obviously, if a team has injuries or has bad matchups, that will make it a decision. Realistically, the pick is just about winning the first week. Because, I mean, at any point, you could face any of these teams. So the team you pick is just to survive. If the team picks you the next week, I mean, for me, I think Mick Taylor is probably somebody at some point during the playoffs I'm going to end up against. Yep. So, if I pick him the first or he picks me second, his team finished with the most points. It would be logical, even though Freddie is no longer a thing, that at some point I'm going to face him. So do I get bold and take him out in the very beginning, or do I wait for him to eventually show up at some point and hope someone else takes him out? For me, it's going to be whichever matchup gets me to the next round, because, survive and advance and hope that the other teams are either weakened or have injuries, or you get lucky in the next round if you don't believe that your team is better than theirs.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where you go because, I mean, it's a domino effect after you choose. So the butterfly effect, however you want to call it. One more piece of strategy I want to talk about. Then we'll knock out the rest of the main playoffs here, and then I'll let the two of you go. But Iceman, I want to ask you about – I noticed that you have a hero. Was that a planned event out the gate, like some guys purposefully lost the first 2 weeks, or was it just something that happened, and do you regret it if it was planned? I think you're muted. It doesn't show that you're muted. Oh, okay.
It was planned.
Uh-huh.
And I don't necessarily regret it. I know it didn't work out, but the reasons why it didn't work out, there was the last 4 or 5 weeks, the matchups I was in kind of went down to Monday Night Football. And either the players that I had didn't do what they were supposed to do. I know 1 week I had Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, and they were on Monday Night Football, and they just kind of didn't do anything for me, and I ended up losing the matchup by 5 or 10 points, and I lost Jalen Hurts. So, I don't regret doing it. It was definitely a choice that I made at the beginning. I looked at my first 2 games. I know I could probably have won them, but I didn't. In all honesty, I looked at it and I didn't really see any players from those 2 teams that I really wanted to steal that I thought would strengthen my team. So I'd made the conscious decision really during the draft to kind of take a tight end as late as possible. Know I was going to probably lose my first 2 matchups and then not worry about a tight end because I was going to have the hero play tight end. So I didn't need to steal one or anything like that. So I could focus on the other positions. Hey, it didn't work out. But I think that's the beauty of this league. You know, you can, it could have, like, if a couple of those matchups had gone differently, I might have been in the playoffs, and I'd have had a decent chance. But it was one of those things. I did go back and forth on it a lot. But once I was kind of halfway through the draft, I was kind of set that I had to go that route now. And yeah, I mean, it adds, like you say, it adds a whole nother layer to it to say these are there, and do you take one of those willingly, or do you lose your first 2 matchups and and lose 2 of your good players in trying to win those matchups? And that's what I did. I kept my kind of best 5 players on the bench in the first 2 weeks, so I knew that I didn't lose them and went into week 3. And it just didn't work out for me this year. But like I said, I don't think I would have done it any different if I'd have had the time over.
Yeah, I like to hear that. There's a few teams that are in that 17 to 32 range that have those heroes, and they don't drop off for the playoffs. They're not monster cards. Monster cards drop off at the end of the regular season. So those heroes could become crucial. So it's fun to see that strategy, and it's going to be great to see how that plays out. Seeds 9 through 16 are all based on points for. There are some surprises here because the number 1 team in points for on the season, and I believe both of you alluded to it, is Mick Taylor of Wolf Creek. And Mick Taylor of Wolf Creek had the most points for, but he had like 1 or 2 losses less than the division leader. So he wasn't he wasn't a top 8 seed. So he goes in as the number 9 seed, but a guy, just as Sean said, a guy you don't want to reckon with. So and I say it that way because that's how they talk in Australia. They say the word reckon. And then the 10 seed is Dracula, David Cruz, again, another Patreon. The Von Murders at 11, the Loch Ness Monster at 12, Toxic Avenger, Stephen Middleton, another top tier Patreon, got the 13 seed. Will Rail is the Vecna at 14. Jason Voorhees at 15 and Teen Wolf at 16. Jerry Janiga at Jason Snyder at 16, Teen Wolf. But Jerry Janiga is the one I want to talk about because the Jason Voorhees at 15 is the first time in Frankenstank history that a below 500 team makes the playoffs. He is only 6-7 on the season for overall record, but he started off like a madman. He had crazy points just growing out the ears early on in the season, and he rode those points forward throughout the whole season. His team's not great right now, but it got him in the playoffs, and you never know once you get into the playoffs. So, so happy for Jerry that he got that team into the playoffs at a 6-7 record. Anything within that range there that you guys want to touch on before I hit these bottom 16 teams?
No, just shout out to the Brasco of Buggle. You know, like my division. I know I'm not in it, but you know, Toxic Avenger, Teen Wolf, and Medusa. They, you know, looking at it, I would fancy my chances if I was either of those guys, any of those guys, going into this, you know, brawl. And it is a brawl. This round of, you know, the like you say, 30 people down to 6.
Yeah.
It literally, you could end up with 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32 that get through.
Yeah.
And, you know, that will make, you know, the life easy for the for the guys in 1 and 2. Or you would think anyway. But like you said, you've had a lot of injuries, and some of these top teams have, you know, lost players. I'm looking through some of the rosters now. Tank Dell is a big part of a lot of these teams that you've mentioned. And, you know, that's the thing with fantasy, right? Like injuries are going to do that. But yeah, I just wanted to shout out that my division. I said at the start of the year, the champion would come from my division if it wasn't me. So,
well, I tell you what, there's only 3 teams in the playoffs from that division, but just as you said, they're all 3 in the top 16. So points for or division winner wise, they are a powerful 3. There were also 3 from the Frankenstank division, which is the OG original division. 2 of them have not been mentioned yet, so they got in on win-loss record. The Creature division and the Silent but Deadly division each had 3. The bidet, the bidet of Frankenstank and the invisible urinal divisions each had 2. The Phantom of the Portapod actually had 6, and you were talking about that division earlier, actually, Iceman, and 2 of the teams you didn't mention that weren't tied there. One of them got in on points, the other got in on record, but then the Mummy's Toot also had 6. So, but those 6, the 6 for the Mummy's Toot, though, aside from me and the 4 seed and Von Murder, who got in on points 4, all of the other 4 of them all got in on record with pretty much the same scenario, except it wasn't the top 4 spots. It was like the 3rd through 6th spot that all had the same record and squeaked in there. But so I'm going to go ahead and name these off so I can let you guys go, because we do still have like a weekly show that we got to get to as well. But this has been fun. But the number 17 seed is Ghoulie Pete. He's on our team. He came in and took over the team, and they got in on record. Hulk Smash, Bobby Cable. I had a little bit of a rough week this week, and he's lost 2 in a row, so he's been a little down. And thanking us for an amazing year, like he thinks it's over or something. But I don't think he realizes, man, Bobby, if you're watching, stay in there. You got just as much of a chance as anybody, just like we've been saying. The Fiend at 19. Number 20 is Black Eyed Children. And I did look it up. That's actually, he's not making fun of like a DCS type of thing. That was actually something from a scary movie. So, so please, guys, don't at me for this one. Number 21 is Michael Myers. Number 22, 18 weeks later. Number 23, the Headless Horseman. 24 is Mad Scientist, the guy that beat me this week and prevented me from getting the number 1 seed. So may you lose. Number 25 is El Kukui, our boy Rich. Number 26, my brother-in-law, Chucky's Last Stand. Number 27, Sinister 2, Electric Bagul. And then the infamous Uncle Steve slides in there at number 28, Mephistopheles. The Invisible Man at 29. My son Sammy Terry is number 30. Number 31 is Slender Man, and number 32 is The Thing. And what I'll say about this is those last positions that all got in on record, they were all 9-4. Like everybody that's 9-4 in Frank this year got in. If not by points, then definitely by record. And then the 8-5 teams are all of the teams that are on the bubble. So that just missed it, that had your bubbles bursted. So if you were 8-5 and you didn't get in on points, you only missed it by 1 game. So I know that sucks, but you could have the real potential of being a higher seed in one of these constellation tournaments that I'm throwing together. So I guess that's nice, because we do have some sweet prizes we're giving away for those as well. But any last parting words for the Frank members before you guys head out and George and I continue on with the weekly show?
Gonna be fun the rest of the way.
Oh, no. I want trash talk.
Whoever makes it through.
No, man, you're too nice for trash talk.
I think go on.
I was going to say, I get it. We'll leave the trash talking to George.
Yeah.
Listen, you guys are lucky. I'm saying I won my first 2 games, and I said this league way too easy. I'm going to proceed to lose the next 11 because I don't want them to feel like, I'm just going to come in and beat them. So I did everybody a favor. I went 2-11 on the year, lost the last 11. I did it intentionally. I felt bad. I wanted everybody else to have a chance.
Now, one of your wins was against Jason, though, right?
It was. I had 2. I had 2 wins. The first one I had was against Andrew Campy, and then I beat Jason. And after that, I figured I've peaked. Like, it doesn't get any better than that for my division. So I'm just, I'm going to sit back, relax, let everybody else win.
All right. Well, I want to trash talk nonsense.
Well, what's crazy is in week 2, my team put up 374 points, and then I proceeded to lose every week after that. It was crazy.
All right. So that is the Franken Stank. And actually, you know what, Iceman, if you want to stick around, the next tournament I'm going to talk about is the Patreon Constellation Tournament, and you're in that one. So you're welcome to stick around if you want. You can dip out. It doesn't really matter. Totally up to you, Sean. I don't really have any other questions for you, but I definitely appreciate you coming on and kind of giving a little insight. Let us pick your brain a little bit so we know what to fix for next season. But we'll stay in touch definitely in the off season as well, because if you're a man that pulls this out, then just ask Chris. Like, we're going to be asking you all kinds of stuff for your opinions. So we'll be picking your brain like crazy. So. All right. So thanks a lot, Sean. Appreciate your time.
Have a good night, guys.
Yep.
Congratulations, Sean.
All right, Iceman. The next tournament we're going to talk about is the Patreon Constellation Tournament. If it sounds like I'm stumbling in my words, like I don't know what I'm talking about, it's because John and I just put this together this afternoon. As a matter of fact, I already had another constellation bracket all set and ready to go, and it was going to be what I called the sinkers, because a lot of those turds are just too heavy and they sink to the bottom. It was going to be the teams that had 0, 1, or 2 wins, and George was going to be in it. But just like George, there were a lot of teams that were going to be in it that are Patreon supporters, and so now they're going to be in this other tournament. So John, as usual, just made me had to completely throw away that piece of paper and start all over again. But it's worth it, because this is going to be fun. All right. So just like the Frankenstank guys, we're messing with your heads on this one, because this is how we're going to work it. There are 26 teams, and right now, at this very moment, those 26 teams, the way that tournament will shake out, the championship match will be in week 18. Because you know what, it's Frank, so why not? Everybody else is having their championships in week 17, because a lot of starters sit in week 18. But this is Frank. You got to be ready. Another big key thing that could be pivotal here is that the top 6 teams are the ones that get the buys, because of the way it shakes out. 6 teams get a buy. The other 20 go head to head. That gives us a cool 16 team tournament. So the way I'm deciding the buys isn't based off of win-loss record. No, that would be too easy. Points for? Oh, no, that makes way too much sense. No, this is Frankenstank, and this is all about the Patreon. So this is all about us trying to build a brand. So I am going to give the top 6 seeds, the bye-week teams, up to the I'm going to give those to the Patreons that are the highest tier supporters. This is the only tournament I've ever heard of where you can literally buy your way into a better seed. All right. So seeds 7 through 26 are all going to be based off of win-loss record and points for tiebreakers and all that. But seeds 1 through 6 are going to be tier-based. Now, you can't be a member of the team and get a bye. I'm not going to allow that. I think at the very least, we need to allow our listeners, our followers, to have the biggest opportunity at the bye week. Plus, I know George and Iceman, and they would just bump it up for a month just to get the better bye, and then they would lower it back down. And we don't want those people. All right, so you can literally buy your way up into a bye week. So as of right now, the only Patreon that we have that's not in the main tournament that is in this tournament that is at the top tier is Justin Toe. So I haven't even looked. He's Vlad the Impaler. I know he had a decent team, but I haven't looked to see his win-loss record or his points for, but none of that matters. He's the only one that's top tier, so he gets the 1 seed as of right now. David D. I always struggle with the last name, Dezenus, but it's Fantasy Slashers. I met him at the expo. Super awesome dude. So him, Steve Varner, Jerry Bagshaw, who I saw in the chat, and Sean McDonald. I believe I saw him earlier too. All 4 of you guys are that next tier below. You guys are the tier 5. Oh, well, that explains the logo and the whole brand. Okay, so it's pronounced Genus. Okay, thank you very much. That's good to know. All right, so David Genus. Okay. So you guys are all going to be seeds 2 through 5 at this point, as long as nobody else bumps their way up. And then the 6th seed is the only person that's at the next level, which is Coach Fry, Kevin Fry at Frankencastle. So you guys are the top 6 seeds. Congratulations. But everybody has up until noon on Thursday if you decide that you want to tweak your Patreon level a little bit. But if you do, make sure you send me a DM on Gilded. That's the free Gilded channel. All of you guys know about it if you're in the Patreon. If you're watching this now, it's free. We talk football. We talked about it earlier with the fantasy gambling. We talked or any kind of gambling for that matter. Like you said, he even does soccer. And we actually get views on that because a lot of people bet soccer. And then we have college football talks, whatever, but it's all in the Gilded. So DM me in the Gilded if you decide to bump up your Patreon support level to try to get a better seed here. But if you're not in one of those top tiers, then you're going to be in seeds 7 through 26, and that is all going to be based on win-loss record and points for. And I don't have them in any particular order right now because, like, literally just before we hit play, I was still writing down the last of the names. But that's Mike Wazowski, Demogorgon, Demonic Confusion, the Dementors, Hannibal Eckler, Lucille, Helsing's Baskerville, Zombie Redneck Torture Family, the Candymen, Brundlefly, the Praxa, Beelzebub, Ape Sapiens, Dark and Terrible Gents, the Unholy, Three Nights at Foxy's, the monster named Janie, which is the only monster named after a mother-in-law, King of the Monsters, King Kong Ain't Got Nothing on Me, Old Dusty Skeleton Bones, and the one and only Mumra St. Brown. So this is what you're playing for, y'all. You get a $100 Amazon gift card and a free t-shirt. The downside on the t-shirt is it has to be size large because that's all we have in stock. So if you don't wear a large, then at least you got a nice little Christmas gift to give to a family member that would want to wear a Frankenstank t-shirt to show support for the network. But we're going to throw in that t-shirt along with the $100 Amazon gift card. And the reason I wanted to make it an Amazon gift card is because you can go to our website, toylistedtitles.com, where you can click on all of our different affiliates. And one of those affiliates are going to be Amazon. You click on that Amazon affiliate and make your purchases there, and you'll be able to help support the team that way as well. So, Iceman, what do you think of that format for this little Patreon tournament? I
like it. I think, and I assume it's going to run the same way, right? Like just the 20 all-out brawl, and then.
No. This one's all going to be head to head. Sorry, I didn't know.
The 20. Okay, so you're just gonna the 20 is head to head because you said there's 10 going to go through into 16. Yeah, I mean that makes it a lot easier. So it's going to be like 3 versus 26, right? Oh, 7 versus 26.
Yeah, so it'll be 7 versus 26. Yep. Yeah.
And it's all on win-loss record.
Yes. And I will try to.
I'm 26, right? I assume that I'm the last one, isn't?
No, I didn't put them in any particular order.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
No, I mean, it actually makes it. I think the thing I found last year with the Rumble at this stage now, because you're not playing in your division anymore, you're playing up against teams that have got the same players as you. Right? So if one or two players that are on the same team happen to go off, then all the teams that have those players are going to find themselves at the top of the list.
Yep.
And that was a big thing for me when I was looking at who I was picking to play against in those later rounds.
Right.
It's a case of, well, hey, we've got 5 of the same player, so therefore there's only a couple of differentials. Do you trust those differentials, or do you pick another team that you've only got 2 players in common with, so that it's your difference makers against theirs? So I think that will play a huge part in both of these. And for this Patreon members tournament, you get that from the very get-go, because you're now playing against teams that you could have the same player, and that I think adds a whole other dynamic to it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see David in your chat there. You are currently at the second level, which is the $10 a month tier 5. The only tier we have above that is tier 6. The only official tier we have above that is tier 6. And that would be a $20 per month level. So that would definitely buy you into a buy, I'm sure. But we do have an unofficial tier 7 that George has mentioned several times on the show. What did they get with that, George?
So tier 7 is extremely special. It's the $1 million tier. With that, you get to fly on the tour list of titles private jet. Joe will come over. He'll rub your shoulders. He'll rub your back. He'll set your bathwater. He'll buy you a steak. He'll take you to the Super Bowl. Like, there's a lot of things I can get Joe to do for $1 million. You'd be surprised. The man is old. He's sometimes grumpy, and he has no shame. So really, anything you want him to do, he'll probably do.
Now, just remember,
that's the unofficial tier 7, $1 million tier.
Just remember, it's a Patreon, so that's $1 million a month.
No shame with Joe, though. No shame.
So, but since we're talking about all this, we are talking about the contributions, and ultimately, this is all going right back into you guys at this point, because we're not making any money off of this. We've been putting all the money right back into giveaways. There is one very special prize that we're trying to save up for, and it's also accumulating into an entire event that potentially could be happening at the expo. In order for that to happen, we probably need to pony up a decent amount of money for a sponsorship for the expo. So I want to throw this out there, because it's been brought up by three different people in the Patreon have brought this up to me throughout the course of the season, that have mentioned to me, hey, not within the Patreon. They're telling me they don't want the monthly Patreon thing. And now we do offer yearly subscription, just so you know. There is an option to pay yearly if you'd like. But also, some people just want to donate, and they just want to donate for the cause, which in this case, the cause is the expo in August. If that's the case, you can just contribute to our PayPal. And this is something that's new. I don't have the PayPal, like the official PayPal, and I don't want to accidentally give out the wrong thing. I did that once, and Jason actually paid for the expo to some other Justin Stevens, and that dude never paid me back, because you can never trust a Justin Stevens. But anyhow, that dude never paid us back, so I feel bad. So I'm not going to throw it out there right now, but by the next episode, I'm going to have it in our show notes, and you guys will be able to just contribute to the PayPal just as a charitable donation to help get us to that goal that we want at the expo, where we're going to be giving away big prizes. But we're going to try our best to blast through the rest of this show in about 16 minutes. So it's so hold on tight, strap in. We got the tumbler to give away. We've got we got to draw somebody to go up against us for the pick'em. But Iceman, appreciate you coming on, man. We greatly we really appreciate what you've offered this season, especially me not having to go through the all of the steals and the monster cards every single week for every single division has been a huge help. And I think I might even take myself out of that altogether next year because I have the heroes and I have the illegal lineups and all of that stuff. Just that takes up so much time. So it's nice to be able to have guys on the team that are willing to step up. So I know this is a busy time of year for you. So we appreciate your time, man. And
No problem.
good luck in the
Pleasure to be
Patreon
here.
tournament, first ever.
Thanks very much. I can go and win that. I can still be Mama. I can still be the champs again this year.
I'm sure you could probably talk Coach into another bobblehead.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm sure there's another. I'm sure they can be purchased. All right. Thanks, gents.
That's it, man.
All right, George, man. Whew. Here we go. All right. Game of the week. Last week, Coach said that his game of the week was going to be the Niners and the Eagles. And that ended up being a 23-point differential. I had already kind of started to take the lead there, and now I'm starting to pull away a little bit, and we're getting towards the end of the season because I went with the Colts and the Titans, which was only a 3-point differential. So I gained 20 more points ahead of him. I'm currently up by, it would be 36 points. So I'm ahead by 36 points right now. So I just got to try to pick games that are going to keep it close here to win this competition. Coach had the opportunity to choose the game of the week first this week, which is fair because for one, he's behind, but also it's the game of the year at this point, and it's his Cowboys. And nobody else, if you have the opportunity to just choose one, are you going to choose anything but the Eagles at the Cowboys? And that is the Sunday night football game. Division rivals, the division is on the line. Potential number 1 seed is on the line. There's just a lot at stake and a lot of fantasy involved too, being week 14, first round of a lot of playoffs or last regular season game for a lot of fantasy leagues. So this could be a very stressful game. What do you think?
I think it's going to be a very good game. I think the Cowboys are going to blow them out.
Oh, I hope so. I really hope so.
I think the Cowboys are just going to mud stomp the Eagles. But I don't think it's the game of the week. I think, and we'll get to it in just a second, but I think the one I've got going on is more so the game of the week.
So my game of the week is a combination of kind of equal match teams, but also I know we heard earlier that the injury to Trevor Lawrence last night was a high ankle sprain, so nothing super serious. High ankle sprains can keep you out, but at the bare minimum, they can also really hamper your mobility. So if Trevor Lawrence isn't able to run the football and he's just got to rely on passing, he's still definitely a few notches above a backup quarterback, don't get me wrong, but it does help even that playing field. And Joe Flacco, actually for the Browns, played pretty well last week. And y'all know I can't watch the Browns because I refuse to watch them live because I don't want to give them more numbers because of the whole human predator thing with that other quarterback that they overpaid for that's not playing. But that's neither here nor there. But it's still going to be a game of the week. It's still going to be a game where I can't wait to tune in and see how it panned out afterward when they're not getting the live view numbers. And also, I think it's going to be a close game, which kind of keeps me there in the lead with Coach, hopefully. But your game is a game that I almost selected, and there's a big reason I didn't select it, and I'll tell you in just a moment. But I'll let you talk about it first.
Yeah, so I selected Kansas City at home against Buffalo. Buffalo's coming off a bye. Buffalo is 6-6. Kansas City is coming off a loss, so I expect them to come out and be angry. If Buffalo loses this game, like I think right now they're the 11th seed in the AFC, so they desperately need wins and as many wins as they can get if they even want to make the playoffs. So I think there's a lot on the line here for Buffalo. And then Kansas City, like I said, they're coming off a loss. They dropped from the number 1 seed overall in the AFC down to the number 3 seed. Currently, Miami is number 1. Baltimore's number 2, and then Kansas City is, with the Jaguars loss, Kansas City is number 3. So it's going to be just a very interesting game. Both teams have a lot to play for, and the fantasy points involved with Kansas City and Buffalo as well. That was the reason I went with that game.
Right on. Very good. So the reason I ended up not selecting is because at the end of the day, Andy Reid's teams coming off of a bye typically, or I mean, coming off of a loss, typically come out firing. Just as you said, they should be ready to play.
Yep.
And then Buffalo this year just kind of stinks. Like they're not even a fun team to watch anymore. So
They're
like,
really not.
like when they do play good, it's because the defense is playing good, and when they do play good, it's because they hit a few big plays here and there, and they kind of make it interesting. But they also most of the game is just kind of boring. It's just not a fun team to watch. So that was why I didn't go with them. But I did consider them just because of the name power, the name recognition, and all that sort of stuff. But I want to remind you all again, we're going to be doing the drawing towards the end of the show, which should be hopefully pretty soon. But we're going to draw for the tumbler. We're giving away a tumbler every single Tuesday night throughout the whole month of December because Shepsy Claus is feeling generous this week and he wanted to give away 4 tumblers. You have to be a Patreon member. You have to comment in the comments, and you have to win the wheel spinny thing that I'm going to do at the end. I'm trying to input those names as George does his parts. But real quick, I want to go over the results of last week's challenge. Mark Simon in the chat, Mark Simon Patreon went up against us, and Frito totally wiped the floor with us. Before the last 2 games, before the Sunday night game and the Monday night game, he was 11-0. So he almost ran the whole gambit. Yeah. But he ended up losing the last 2 games, but he's still 11-2. Man, that was incredible, which was a big bounce back from being last the previous week. Coach was 9-4. Will and Mark Simon were 8-5, and then I pulled up the rear at 7-6 this time. So I am the new Rich, which hopefully means next week I'll be the new Rich, and it'll be my turn to win this. But I'm not really holding my breath on that. So yeah, so we're going to spin that wheel at the end. Already done the rival plug. We've got Arizona and the Commanders on bye this week, so not any huge names. Kyler Murray, and now that he's back, he's kind of been playing decent enough to start in a lot of formats. James Conner maybe is a guy you gotta watch for. Sam Howell. Anybody else I'm missing?
Trey McBride.
Yeah, Trey McBride.
Tight end for the Cardinals.
The running back situation with I believe it was Brian Robinson that went down. So Gibson, we can foresee having a bigger boost the next few weeks, and then the first week of that few weeks is a bye week. So that kind of sucks. You finally get one of them in a situation where they're not going to play that would help the other, and they have a bye. Not doing the streaming life this week. So guys, DM me if you need some streaming advice. We're trying to save time from the Frank stuff earlier in the episode, but hit me on
Sunday morning.
Ooh, good call.
If you need some streaming life, and we'll help you out on title time.
Yep, start sit advice, right?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't saying hurry. I was saying go along. Keep going.
Yeah, Jason and I won't be there this week. We're doing our Toys for Tots shopping. We will check in live from our Toys for Tots shopping, like we do every year, but we won't. We got an absolute stud-filled lineup with Justin, Peter, and I think Coach is going to fill in as well. So I think we got mom, dad, and cousin Pete for the show this week.
Cousin Pete. All right. Love it. Don't forget, again, toiletstitles.com. Check out the duds and dudes that George is about to read, but also the top 10 rankings list by Jason and Rich that they put out, PPR top 10 every week on the website. All right, George, you start reading the dudes and duds, and I'm going to start filling out this wheel and get these Patreon guys in this drawing.
Absolutely. So these are all Coach's dudes and duds. Coach Shepty Claus, as Justin refers to him as, cares enough to give away a whole bunch of tumblers. He cares enough to give you his dudes and duds, but doesn't care enough to show up to do the show. So I'm going to read these for him. Quarterback Justin Fields versus the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions have given the third most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks this season, and that bodes well for Mr. Fields. It also bodes well for Miss Fields. She makes amazing chocolate chip cookies. Also, due to the fact that it'll be snowing in Chicago.
Uh-oh, he froze up. due to the fact that it will be also due to the fact that it will be snowing in Chicago, I think Fields will have the opportunity to do a lot of damage on the ground. Next is Russell Wilson for he's up against the Chargers. The Broncos lost for the first time. Okay, you froze up really bad there, George. I just now started Russell Wilson, so go ahead and pick up at Russell Wilson.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi is much like the New York Jets. It's trash. Quarterback Russell Wilson at the Los Angeles Chargers. The Broncos, for the first time in what seems like forever, or since the Miami Dolphins dropped 70 on them, and they're looking like to bounce back against a division opponent. The Chargers have led up the 6th most points to opposing quarterbacks this season, and Russell Wilson should be a top 10 fantasy quarterback this week. By the way, Russell Wilson has not only a bounce back week coming this week, he's had a bounce back year. He's been absolutely phenomenal for your fantasy teams. The death of Russell Wilson has been greatly exaggerated. The man is literally unlimited. There's nothing he can't do. Running back, Alvin Kamara versus the Carolina Panthers. God, the Panthers. What would the fantasy football playoffs be without a monster performance from Alvin Kamara? It's too soon, Coach. I still have nightmares from his 6 touchdowns that eliminated me from the championship game on a Thursday. This one is too easy. Start Alvin Kamara. Joe Mixon versus the Indianapolis Colts. I'm not going to sit here and besmirch and bash Justin's Colts. He's right there. He can see me, so I will not do it. Mixon is coming off a 2-touchdown performance in Week 13 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. This week, Joe will face a Colts defense that has allowed an average of 26 points per game to opposing running backs. Good gosh, that's horrible. Wide receiver A.J. Brown at the Dallas Cowboys. This week, expect a lot of fireworks through the air in Jerry World. Cowboys have been good against the pass, but last week they were exposed against the Seahawks. Look for Brown to have a big day. On the other side of that coin, wide receiver CeeDee Lamb versus the Philadelphia Eagles, because Coach can't do one of these without putting a Cowboy in it. The Eagles are allowing a league worst 48 points per game to opposing wide receivers. Coach expects Lamb to continue his hot streak and shine in a massive matchup in a game that will likely be one of the most viewed this season. Again, it's the Cowboys. He's going to talk them up as best he can. Tight end Kyle Granson at the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't even know who this is. Granson holding 3 receptions for 72 yards in Week 13 against the Titans. By the way, I'm joking. I know he's the Colts tight end. This week, Granson will be facing a Bengals defense that allowed Evan Ingram to haul in receptions for 82 yards. I expect Granson to have a 12-plus point performance. Duds. This first one kind of surprised me, folks. Sit down, strap in, let's go. C.J. Stroud at the New York Jets. Excuse me. Jets have nothing to play for. Listen, they've had nothing to play for since week 1, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. The Jets have nothing to play for but to be a spoiler because they suck. Well, that was, Coach, at least you put that in there. The Texans are coming in hot, and C.J. Stroud is a big reason for that. I think Coach Sala, whatever his name is, I don't even like their coach. I refuse to pronounce his name. And company will have something in store for the young quarterback. They probably will. Their defense is actually pretty respectable. And Robert Saleh has them playing really, really well on defense. Quarterback Jared Goff at Chicago Bears. The Bears are another team who have nothing to play for, but unlike the Jets, they don't suck. But to be a spoiler, I think they'd like nothing more than to hurt their division rival Detroit Lions at this point in the season. Snow's expected to be falling during this game, and Coach thinks it'll be a defensive affair with most points coming from the running backs. Excuse me. Let me get a quick sip of water. Thank you. Needed to wet the whistle. Running back Tony Pollard versus, I'm not whistling, versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, Coach can't make these lists without having Cowboys on them. Even if he's saying that they're going to be bad this week. The Cowboys should be able to get it done through the air against the Eagles defense, but they will not have any luck on the ground. Tell that to the 49ers. Good gosh, did you see what Christian McCaffrey did to them on the ground? The Eagles' front seven is stout, and with the addition of Shaq Leonard, who's probably not going to play, I expect them to be even better this week. DeAndre Swift at Dallas Cowboys. I'm shutting both backs down this matchup. The Cowboys defense will be fired up to show the Eagles and the rest of the world that they didn't need Shaq Leonard. See, it's always about the Cowboys. The Cowboys' third-ranked run defense will limit Swift and the rest of the Eagles' backfield. Next one, wide receiver Nico Collins. Nico Collins is coming off a career week, and Sauce Gardner will be well aware of what Collins is capable of. I expect Sauce to be up for the test and accept the challenge. Look for Collins to have a down week. I just want to point out the Miami Dolphins had 2 wide receivers go over 100 yards each against Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. It can be done.
Hey, George, real quick, before you go on,
yep.
I want to throw out there Muscle Matt. You're the only one that I can't really find on Patreon. So if you have a different name on the Patreon, if you would type that in there, kind of like what Big Drew did. He had a different name on here, and he typed in that he's Big Drew on Patreon. So tell me what your Patreon name is, so I can get you on this list. All right, go ahead. You got like a couple more, and then we'll do this drawing.
Yeah, I got 2 more. I probably would have been done if I was not rudely interrupted, but that's fine. Wide receiver Chris Olave at the Carolina Panthers. J.C. Horn is back for the Panthers, and he posted a 90.7 PFF coverage grade in Week 13, which was second among all cornerbacks. See a lot of Olave, and Olave will struggle to produce in this. Actually, agree. Tight end Evan Ingram at the Cleveland Browns. It would be very Evan Ingram of Evan Ingram to post a 23-point game and following it up with a 6-point game. This is what I expect to happen for Ingram against the number 1 ranked defense against tight ends this season. Now, Justin, I turn it over to you for the drawing.
All right, very good. So we went through all of that, and I had the whole wheel set up, ready to go, and still forgot to hit share down here at the bottom. Okay, here we go. So, and no, imagine that is not a sponsor, so we're gonna get rid of that. All right, you can see the wheel, right?
I can see the wheel.
And I've still not heard back, so I apologize. I really appreciate the compliment earlier, Muscle Matt, but I can't have you on the list if I don't know for sure that you're a Patreon. So I'm going to shuffle this 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now, this is for the Yeti. It's not a Yeti cooler like you see on here. Didn't really have time to change it to a tumbler, but this is for the Yeti tumbler. Also, Yeti people out there, we're willing to take on another sponsor. Stephen Weiss. It's the Weiss guy. All right, Stephen Weiss. So George, you know Stephen, right?
I do know Stephen.
At least through the Gilded, you could shoot him a quick message for me. All right. So congratulations, Stephen Weiss, on winning the Yeti Tumbler. Now I'm going to remove him, and we're going to get a different winner to go up against myself and Rich and Coach and Will for an opportunity to win a $25 gift card just by beating us in weekly pick'ems for week 14. I'm going to shuffle it 3 times again, and here we go.
Stephen Weiss is commenting, woohoo! So he knows he won.
All right.
Also, I want to make a suggestion for this after.
Well, we can't have Rich on here because he's already going up against us. But yeah, so Stephen, if you would shoot Coach a DM since you're still in the chat. Shoot Coach a DM and let him know that you're the tumbler winner, and he'll get on that right away. So shuffle 3 times again.
Coach ain't busy right now. It's not like he had a podcast to do or anything.
This and everybody, we want to thank George one last time for his final appearance ever on the main show. But Anthony Dion, there we go, my man. All right, Anthony Dion, if you're still in the chat, type in there so we know. If not, George is going to shoot you a DM to let you know that you have the opportunity. And actually, no, we're not even gonna necessarily DM you. We're gonna DM Will in case Will isn't watching. Will T2T on Gilded is going to be reaching out to you to get your picks for Week 14 for the pick'em. And if you beat myself, Coach, Rich, and Will, then you'll get a $25 gift card. Yeah, Yeah, so congratulations to Stephen Weiss, congratulations to Anthony, and I do not have anything that I learned for today because we're trying to hurry up and get through it. But George, one last time, we want to thank you for your work and your contribution to the Toys for Tots through Break from the Grind. You and Jason both phenomenal people. And we thank you obviously for your time here on the show tonight, but any parting words for the kids?
No, I just want to say good luck to everybody in the Frankenstank that made it to the playoffs. I want to congratulate whoever gets to play me in the first round in the constellation bracket. You didn't realize you were getting a first round bye, but you're absolutely getting a first round bye. And Jerry, my friend Jerry, Jerry and I are best friends. He learned I could be comic relief. See, I bring comedy to the show. I got no knowledge, I got no skills, I got a loud voice, but I could bring some comedy too. So that's what Jerry learned.
Yeah, so occasionally, because like way back in the day, you sent me that TikTok or that message about I think it was a TikTok where your TikTok went viral when you spun around like a monkey. Do you remember
I don't know
that?
what you're talking about. No, because so I'm on TikTok. I have never posted a video or anything. I've had TikTok for like over a year. Not one time have I ever made a TikTok though. I just get out
Okay,
there and scroll while I'm taking a deuce.
Well, it was definitely you, and I reposted it, and that thing
It might not have
has
been I might have sent you a TikTok, but it wasn't one that I created.
it.
Like me,
It was
Nate.
definitely it
No,
was you.
me, Nate. No,
Okay.
can't say it
Well,
was.
this dude looks exactly like you, but anyway,
Poor
it has
soul.
over
That
like
poor soul.
1.4 million views, and so I see that on occasion, and that's what reminds me that you do have some kind of comic relief in you. So yeah, Jerry, he
Not
is
much.
somewhat of a funny guy. But
More
all
funny
right.
looking than anything.
Don't forget all the other shows we got coming down the pipeline. But Friday nights, we're going to start doing the roundtable again for this off season, guys.
Yep.
Just because the regular season is dying down doesn't mean that Toilets of Titles dies down, because we pick up speed. A few of us take a little time off, but then the rest just kind of fill in, and then they're going to take a little time off while we jump back in and fill in for them. And then it is full bore all the way through the draft, all the way through free agency, all the way through trades. We're adding in baseball this year for Rival. Looking into a lot of different things that we're going to be adding into this offseason. So stay with us this offseason and stay in that Gilded. George, I saw the finger.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay. All right. So George, I'm Justin. We thank you very much for your time. Have a great night, and good luck in week 14.